Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisseton, Illinois, with your thoughts for Wednesday. Today I want to call to your attention the idea of prayer, or the wonderful blessing of prayer. You know, some people may just use prayer as sort of a distress call, a hotline in time of crisis. Others will practice prayer as a daily line of communication with the Lord. And the psalmist says in Psalm 116 in verse 1, "I love the Lord, because he has heard my voice and my supplications, because he has inclined his ear to me. Therefore, I will call upon him as long as I live." I love that great proclamation of the psalmist here. Now, you realize the psalmist loves the Lord anyway. I mean, there's so many reasons to love God, besides the fact that he called for us to love him in his great commandment, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul and all thy strength." The picture of loving God is not a difficult thing, but he says here, it just causes me to love him more because he has heard my voice and my supplications. This is certainly a blessing from the Lord for every believer to realize that God is listening. You know, when no one else seems to care around us, or no one seems to listen to our woes and our troubles, our cries for help, God is listening. And one of the things we recognize in this passage, he says, God hears my voice. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to recognize a person's voice on the line? Maybe you don't even have the caller ID, but the minute you hear them, you know who is calling you. You recognize that quickly. It's even greater when it's someone you love. Recently, we were in a park, and one of our grandchildren fell from a climbing apparatus, and I heard his cry immediately. I recognized it as one that I knew. And the psalmist says, one of the greatest blessings about calling upon the Lord is that he hears my voice. He knows who we are. He is ready. The Lord knows our cries anyway. But he's ready to answer because he recognizes us. Unlike those whom the New Testament says, "I'm sorry, I never knew you." The Lord knows our voice today. And he not only knows our voice here, he says he is ready to answer all of my supplications. When there is something in life that we need to have supplied, when we're calling upon him for a special request, God hears and God supplies. As a matter of fact, the New Testament reminds us in Philippians, "My God shall supply all your needs according to his riches in glory by Christ Jesus." Paul is telling the church at Philippi, don't worry because God has this great storehouse of abundant blessings. He'll supply all of your need. And we must know that God can supply all our need, and of course that he will hear our cries and provide for our needs daily. The psalmist says, because he's inclined his ear to me, I have learned by experience God is listening, that he answers my prayers. He also says, therefore, because I know these things, therefore I will call upon him as long as I live. This is going to be a daily practice for the psalmist. This is one of these things that he has learned by experience. I can call upon God and he's listening. You know, I admire those people who keep in touch with others so well. Maybe it's a parent or a loved one. Maybe it's just a neighbor. They feel like someone needs to reach out to them. They may even call them daily. That is the way it should be whenever we call upon the Lord, that we keep in touch. He said, I will call upon him as long as I live. We need to make that kind of pledge today. Because of God's blessing of hearing our cries and knowing our voice, answering our supplications, we need to pledge to the Lord today and test him. Make sure he's listening, but call upon him every day, because we know that God hears and answers our prayers.